Welcome to The Explainer. You know, in cybersecurity, we get really caught up in the digital stuff. Firewalls, encryption, you name it. But what if I told you the biggest threat could just walk right in? Today, we're going old school. We're building a fortress for your data by digging into the physical security controls of ISO 27002. We're talking about the actual walls, the locks, the guards, the stuff that's the absolute bedrock of any solid security plan. So let's start with this question right here, because it's a big one. Your firewall, it's probably amazing, but what about your front door? Seriously, think about it. All that cutting-edge digital defense means absolutely nothing if someone can just stroll in, find your server rack, and pull the plug. Physical security, it's the foundation that everything else is built on, and honestly, it gets overlooked way too often. Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. We're building our defense in 5 layers, kind of like an onion. We'll start from the outside with the security perimeter. Then we'll look at controlling who gets in, protecting the actual stuff inside, keeping an eye on everything 24/7, and finally, we'll cover the whole life of an asset from start to finish. All right, let's jump right in with that first line of defense. All right, section 1. This is all about defining that security perimeter. This is your outermost wall, the first big barrier that separates your important stuff from, well, everyone else. So, what's the point of this perimeter? According to Control 7.1, it's pretty simple but absolutely vital. You want to stop unauthorized people from getting in, messing with your stuff, or damaging it. And look, this is way more than just sticking a fence up. It's about designing a boundary with a purpose, a boundary that's actively defending what's inside. So how do you actually build this perimeter? Well, Control 7.1 gives us a pretty clear roadmap. First, you have to define it. What are you protecting? The more sensitive the assets, the stronger the perimeter needs to be. Makes sense, right? Second, you build it strong. We're talking solid walls, a solid roof, secure doors and windows. And third, you have to test your weak spots. Think about fire doors. Are they alarmed? Are they monitored? You have to keep checking. It's this methodical approach that turns a simple wall into a real defense. Okay, so you've built the wall. Great. But a wall is useless if the gate is wide open. That brings us to our second section, controlling the physical entry points. This is all about managing who and what gets through those gates and doors. And this is the heart of Control 7.2. A door is just a hole in the wall unless you have the right controls on it. The whole idea is to turn every single access point into a managed checkpoint, a choke point where you can make sure only the right people are getting through. And here's a really key point. You don't treat everyone the same. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. For your own personnel, it's about making sure they have a visible ID, that their access rights are up to date, and that you know who has the keys. But for visitors or delivery folks, it's a whole different ballgame. You need to check who they are, know exactly why they're there, probably keep an eye on them, and for sure, inspect what they're bringing in. This idea of controlling access doesn't just stop at the front door. Control 7.3 takes it a step further, inside your building. It's about creating secure zones within your secure perimeter. You know, like a Russian doll of security. This means doing smart things like hiding your critical rooms away from public areas, making the building look boring so it doesn't attract attention, and making sure people can't just peek in a window or overhear a sensitive conversation. It's a great mix of layered defense and good old-fashioned security through obscurity. Okay, we're in. We've made it past the perimeter, through the secure doors. Now we're in the room with the important stuff, the crown jewels, and this is where security has to get really, really specific. Because look, security doesn't just stop at the door of the server room. Every single desk, every screen, every device is a potential weak spot. An unlocked computer, a confidential report just sitting on a desk. That one little mistake can make all those fancy walls and locks totally worthless. Sometimes the biggest threat is already inside. And that's exactly why Control 7.7, the clear desk and clear screen policy, is so crucial. It's all about building simple but super effective habits. Lock up your papers. Make sure your computer locks when you walk away. Grab your documents from the printer right away. Oh, and erase that whiteboard. These are the small, everyday things that stop those easy, opportunistic breaches in their tracks. Now, the standard is smart enough to know that a server in a rack is different from a laptop on the road. So the rules change depending on where the asset is. When it's on-site, Control 7.8 says you should think about where you put things. Angle screens so people can't shoulder surf and protect equipment from things like leaks or overheating. But once that asset leaves the building, Whoa, the rules get way tighter. Control 7.9 kicks in, and now you're talking about never leaving it unattended, tracking its every move, and being able to wipe it remotely if it gets lost or stolen. You can't just build a fortress and walk away, right? You need guards on the walls, and that's what this next section is all about: ongoing monitoring and maintenance. These are the things you do day in and day out to make sure your security actually stays secure. So what does that monitoring look like? Control 7.4 makes it clear you need layers. It's not just about one thing. You need video monitoring, your CCTV, to see and record what's happening. You need intruder alarms, motion detectors, and things like that to give you that instant alert when something's wrong. And you need actual human guards for that smart, on-the-spot response. They all work together. A camera can't stop someone, but a guard can. An alarm tells the guard where to go. See, they each cover the other's blind spots. And it's really important to remember that threats aren't always people in ski masks. Control 7.5 forces you to think bigger. What about environmental threats? You've got your natural stuff, like fires, floods, earthquakes. Then you have human-caused problems like theft or vandalism. And don't forget your own infrastructure failing you. What happens when the power goes out or the AC dies? You have to plan for all of it. Exactly. Your high-tech servers and systems are completely dependent on some pretty basic stuff. They're lifelines. That's where these controls come in. Control 7.11 is all about your utilities, making sure you have backup power, redundant cooling, things like that. Then Control 7.12 is about the cables themselves, protecting your power and data lines from being physically cut or even tapped. Because let's be real, a server without power or a network connection is just a very expensive paperweight. All right, for our last section, let's pull the camera back and look at the whole picture. Physical security isn't something you do once. It's a process that has to cover the entire life of an asset from the moment you buy it to the day you get rid of it, from cradle to grave. And this timeline lays it out perfectly. You can see how different controls snap into place at each stage. When you first get an asset, you manage it properly under 710. Register it, classify it. While it's being used, especially if it leaves the building, 7.9 kicks in to protect it. When it needs maintenance, 7.13 says only authorized people can touch it. And finally, when it's time to say goodbye, 7.14 ensures it's disposed of so securely that no data can ever be recovered. Let's talk a bit more about Control 7.10, because it really is the linchpin holding this whole life cycle together. It's the master plan for managing all your physical media. And I mean everything: USB sticks, hard drives, even good old-fashioned paper. It sets the rules for how you buy it, how you use it, how you move it around, and how you get rid of it. And it's all based on how sensitive the data on it is. And now for the final act: getting rid of the asset. This is governed by Control 7.14, and you absolutely cannot mess this up. This is where data leakage happens if you're not careful. The process has to be perfect. First, check if it has any storage. If it does, you have to make that data gone for good, either by overwriting it or physically destroying it. Then, you strip off any company logos or labels. And finally, you log everything so you have a clear record. There is zero room for error here. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this: strong physical security is not about one thing. It's not about a single fancy lock or a high-tech camera. It's a whole system. It's how the perimeter, the doors, the rules inside, the constant monitoring, and the way you handle assets all work together. It's about creating layers of defense that are truly tough to beat. So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Your physical security is a chain made up of these 14 controls. And you know the old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So the real question you should be asking yourself is, which one is yours? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.